Welcome, my 104 subscribers, everyone on Wrestling Reddit, and everyone who knows the difference between a wrist lock and a wristwatch. Welcome to my review of Jim Crockett Promotions presents Ric Flair's last match. So yeah, I didn't know the company that was going to be doing this. I thought it was just going to be like an indie show by Ric Flair and Conrad Thompson. But we actually get like Jim Crockett Promotions. And I'm sure all of the old heads are creaming in their pants. They're going to be reliving their childhoods. Actually, when I look at the crowd is like a lot older. And it's like pretty funny. But we get some flippy shit here. We get like a luchador match that went like viral. Like the YouTuber Suplex made like a clip of this. He made fun of like the old gatekeeping fans. And yeah, fuck those guys. The future is now, old man. But yeah, I never really watched Jim Crockett Promotions, like, ever. Like, I wasn't born yet. But it's really cool that they managed to, like, duplicate the set. I think they managed to do this well. But it feels kind of weird that it isn't backstage. That, like, everyone can see this, like, special set with a special background, like, on the stage. So yeah, we get AEW commentator Tony Schiavone, accompanied by David Crockett. And we also have like a blast from the past when we head to the Spanish announce table where we get Hugo Savinovich and Carlos Cabrera. Yeah, those guys. The guys who always like have to call matches without tables. Sad. But yeah, we get them and there's this whole like nostalgic feeling. Not for me, but like just generally like a nostalgic feel about this show. So like after 2 minutes of intro, like they go through this really fast, like surprisingly. We head straight to the first match, which is the Motor City Machine Guns with Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin against the Wolves, Davey Richards, and Eddie Edwards. So this is dubbed as like an Impact Wrestling Dream Match, and it's the first time that I'll see both teams like actually wrestling. So this being like Jim Crockett Promotions, like an old school, old-timey wrestling shtick, I expected like more grounded stuff. I expected like them to adopt a more like traditional wrestling style, but to start the match that goes all out of the window. But as the match goes on, like the Wolves like do a lot of like grounded looking stuff. They actually like do a lot of tag team moves. They cut the ring in half. And they play the heels in the match. They fucking slow it down. They fucking kill the crowd. The crowd was so fucking quiet whenever the Wolves were in control. Like for me, they actually did pretty well. The match was actually like really good from the start. But the crowd just didn't like the grounded style. Like they started getting louder when the Motor City Machine Guns started doing their high-flying shit. But like not that much actually. But the audience was clearly louder when the Motor City Machine Guns like did their like just like the most indie style I've ever seen. If this was on AEW, fans would like chant this is awesome, like they would go insane for this match. But here with a lot of like old people, crowd was silent until like the Motor City Machine Guns do like the facial. It's a move where like they do a lot of running, but it ends with Alex Shelley like locking in Eddie Edwards in like a chancery. And then Chris Sabin, like, kicks him in the face. And so the finish of the match is after they take Davey Richards out with the facial, they then hit Eddie Edwards with a Scully Crush, which is like Chris Sabin turns Eddie Edwards for the neck breaker, and then Alex Shelley goes for the flying crossbody and gets the pin 1, 2, 3. You know what? This match was really good. The Wolves were more grounded, they were more technical, and I think the older fans would appreciate them more. While Shelley and Chris Sabin are like the more indie style guys, they're more exciting, but like I believe both teams were really good. This match deserved like a better crowd, it deserved like a Wednesday night crowd or something. The crowd reactions here really did a disservice to the match. So yeah, and one more thing. There's this thing that the Motor City Machine Guns do where like Alex Shelley like sets up on the ropes, and then Chris Sabin like jumps between Shelley's legs, and I think this is like a bit unnecessary. I mean, if you don't do a Young Bucks where like Matt forms a V while Nick like jumps over him. Just don't do a spot like this because it isn't like impressive anymore. So yeah, let's head to the spots of the match. So number 3 is the spot that deserved a louder fucking crowd reaction, where both the Wolves had both the guns in like a submission in the middle of the ring. And come on, it's like an ankle lock and like a single leg crab all at the same time in the ring. This is the spot where the crowd would go like insane in like Wednesday night. Yeah, even with this, it's number 3 spot and definitely added to like the drama of the match and like told me like what the Wolves style actually is. And so number 2 spot in the match, it's another Wolves spot. It's the like stunner that Eddie Edwards does where he has Chris Sabin on his back. This was like the highest impact move of the entire match. And then this was followed by like a diving foot stomp and then a pin, but then Alex Shelley pushed Davey Richards into the pin. Oh no, it was Eddie Edwards. Alex Shelley pushes Eddie Edwards into the pin, and like again, if this was on Wednesday night or even on WWE or like in NXT or like in any other crowd, the crowd would fucking cheer. Or even in fucking Japan. They would go wild for this. And then for the last spot, the top 1 spot of the match, it is the finish, like from the facial to the I'm sorry I got it wrong the first time, but it's called the skull and crossbones. Love this finish right here. Is like an underrated tag team finisher. It's like simple, but it works. It's a lot less spectacular looking than the like Keith Lee and Swerve Scott finisher, but it looks a lot fucking better. Like infinity times better. So yeah, I really enjoyed this opening match, even if the crowd didn't. It would be nice to see the Wolves or the Machine Guns in like AEW or even if I watch Impact. So yeah, this is like a TV main event pay-per-view undercard match. And like normally would be a nice opener, but fuck, the crowd just did not appreciate this match. Okay, so after this, after like this like video package that is narrated by the guy who opened up the show about like Ric Flair's last match, like it's hyping up the main event. It's okay. It would have been better though if like started showing moments of Ric Flair's career or like hyping up that Andrade is his son-in-law. Like just giving story to the match, but it didn't. It just like stated it. But yeah, after this, I enjoyed what came after. Because what came after is like, it zooms into like the crowd, the special guests like Al Snow and Santino Marella, as well as Vicky Guerrero and Mick Foley in the crowd. So yeah, if you guys can just get a little bit louder, that would be nice. So yeah, after this is Davey Boy Smith Jr. against Killer Kross. So Kross has hair now, he's accompanied by Scarlett Bordeaux, and I think this look suits him more. Because when he was bald, he looked like fucking Nappa. And Nappa is like one of the weaker villains of Dragon Ball Z. And him with hair like actually looks kind of more like marketable. Like he could be like a main eventer somewhere, probably back in the WWE because that's where the rumors are saying. So yeah, but the match they have here against Davey Boy Smith Jr. was like a Haas versus Haas match that probably if you expected like traditional style wrestling match, this was it. There was some nice selling by Killer Kross to start it off, but it doesn't really play into the ending. Like, I think this was a bit of overselling here. The match just started and you sell your arm like Davey's been working on it for a while. Makes someone look pretty weak. But I do like the one-upsmanship like backdrops that they do because they no-sell like some backdrops until like Killer Kross loses that fight. But then Killer Kross regains control. They do like a nice sort of like roll-up spot that Killer Kross counters into like a rear naked choke. And then Davey counters into a pin. But then Kross eventually wins out. He hits a T-bone suplex. And then what I assume is his finisher, which is like just a forearm to the back of the head. It didn't even look good. It wasn't like impactful enough. And it's definitely not making it to spots of the match. Like the only spot of the match here for me is just like the rear naked choke. That like counter right there. That was the best spot of the entire match. And I would have preferred if the match ended like that. As for the rest, I don't mind how slow it is. I actually like how hard-hitting the match is. But I think that they weren't given enough time. Yeah, that's it. if this match was like a lot longer, if the crowd was a lot more receptive, this would have been better. But yeah, this is like just a TV undercard match, nothing special. And when Killer Kross got the pin, I think I saw Davey Richards kick out at 3. And yeah, that's just like a dick move. So this match was very short. They were capable of better, but they didn't. And yeah, they just didn't do enough to have like a good match. And that finish was just like anticlimactic. I think the forearm that Kross delivers to Davey Boy Smith Jr. like earlier, like right before the finish happens, right before the T-bone suplex, was a lot harder and a lot stiffer than the finish itself. So yeah, poor match. Should not have been on this card. Or they should have faced other people. So yeah, after this, we get like face cam videos of people wishing Ric Flair luck or like congratulating him for his last match. And they were all like pretty jankily edited and weren't saying that much. Like the worst one that was given actual time was like Will Sasso, and I don't even know who the guy is. If there's like a second worst, it's Shawn Michaels' one during his interview with True Jordy. That was pretty bad. The Booker T one was okay. The Dolph Ziggler one was too short. But like the best 3 were like Jake Roberts, Doug Dillinger, and Lex Luger. Yeah, I think they should have had like background music playing behind these people talking. Or at least just like gave them more time. So after this, we have one of the weirdest match stipulations I think ever. And it did like a big disservice to this match. It's like a 4-way match, but you have to tag in your opponent in order to be legal. And I think this match concept is dumb, and the crowd like made us know about it by not cheering. Even if this match probably had the best wrestling of the entire show. Like Konosuke Takeshita and Jonathan Gresham were in the match. They were head and shoulders above Alan Angels and Nick Wayne, and I think Nick Wayne should have taken the pin since he was the youngest, but it ended up being Alan Angels, and you know what? I don't see much wrong with this, but come on. The age difference is there, and Nick Wayne still has a long career, so he can eat a lot of losses. Like, if he was wrestling in Japan, he would be a fucking young lion. So I think he should have taken the pin, but this match was actually really good. It's just the match stipulation like sort of ruined it for me. It like puts a limiter on the match. Because the best parts here were whenever everyone was in the ring, whenever like it turned into a proper fatal 4-way. I mean, whenever like 2 guys were in the ring, like especially when Konosuke and Jonathan Gresham were in the ring, like it was just like fucking gold. But when tags happened, it just confused the shit out of me. Tags even happened away from the initial corner. It was so fucking confusing, and I don't think this stipulation is even in like any games or something. But yeah, star of the match is Konosuke Takeshita, followed by Jonathan Gresham, followed by Nick Wayne, and then last by Alan Angels. But all of them were really good. There was like so many dives here. This was like completely like a show stealer type. But yeah, again, it was ruined by like the tag stipulation. And then again, MVP of the match, Konosuke Takeshita. The crowd reacted most on his moves. Like whenever he just hit the lariat really hard, whenever he went stiff, that sounded wrong, the crowd ate it up. But then when the dives happened, I actually felt the crowd like lose their collective boners. So yeah, let's head to the spots of the match. Okay, so number 3. It's the Blue Thunder Bomb by Konosuke Takeshita. I think he does it the best. He's bigger and stronger than Sami Zayn, and it would look better on someone who's fucking bigger and stronger than Sami Zayn. Number 2 is like the really hard lariat by Konosuke Takeshita. This like got the best reaction from the crowd, and I think it's like the simplest move to do so. Because for the number 1 spot in the match, we have like the double moonsault by Nick Wayne and Alan Angels to Konosuke and Jonathan Gresham respectively. This was the most visually like impressive spot of the match. It also got like the best reaction, understandably. It got the crowd into the match, but I think it just like didn't have like that gear. It didn't reach like a higher gear like it should. The ending was too sudden. It wasn't that like epic as the match set it up to be. And yeah, Jonathan Gresham just like O'Connor rolls Alan Angels for the win. So yeah, so far this is the second best match of the show. But with what we've had so far, it's not saying much. This is like a TV undercard pay-per-view opener or like a pre-show sort of match. That's mainly because of the stipulation. So after this, we have Cody Rhodes's like tribute video to Ric Flair, and he's like probably the biggest star that like made one of these like so far. But what he does is he like cites his father again, saying that he's Ric Flair's best opponent, which isn't a lie. And then he also like invalidates the name of the pay-per-view because he says Ric Flair can have more matches. So yeah, so much for buying tickets for Ric Flair's last match, where the undercard isn't shaping up to be as good as it's supposed to be, and as I've seen in the rumors, the main event isn't that good as well. So yeah, I love this like promo here by Cody. Again, he like mentions his father again. It's sort of his character now, but he had to ruin the title of the pay-per-view. But yeah, this was the best like video package so far. And then second place is Jake Roberts. So after this, we get a tag team match between the Rock and Roll Express with father and son duo Ricky and Kerry Morton, accompanied by his like former tag team partner Robert Gibson. Yeah, I haven't really watched like the Rock and Roll Express like ever because I'm like not old, but I did like their work like a couple of years ago, especially in like the Broken Universe match, like the Final Deletion. That was fucking insane. And if two like old school wrestlers participate in something that like out of the box, that's like nowhere near what they used to do, they get like a check or like some stars in my book. And shit, he's gonna wrestle with his son as his tag team partner. This is like LeBron James teaming up with like Bronny or like the other kid. This is fucking insane. Only in pro wrestling. Unless, of course, LeBron actually does it. But yeah, they're facing off against another set of second-generation wrestlers. We have Brock Anderson and Brian Pillman Jr. accompanied by Arn Anderson. So to start the match, they do like a lot of like opening wrestling moves, and all of these like look really good. Especially when Kerry Morton does them. Like, this guy is smooth as silk. Like, I even think he's better than Brian Pillman Jr., to be honest. But Pillman Jr. does have the look, and I think he's better at striking. And that fucking hair, man, it's fucking, like, glorious. And then, like, after this opening salvo, it's now Brock Anderson and Ricky Morton. It's like Ricky Morton seeing Arn Anderson on the other side of the ring, because this kid just looks like his dad. He even looks and wrestles like an old-timey wrestler. It's almost kind of a gimmick. So yeah, after Ricky Morton kicks Brock Anderson's ass, he tags to Kerry, and then Kerry gets beaten up for a long time. He's like the underdog, trying to get the hot tag from his dad. And then there's this thing that Brock and Brian Pillman do, where they like throw Kerry Morton's head right into their knees. Like, it's a tag team move. They throw Kerry to like the guy on the corner, like the non-legal man who has his knee out. So after like a couple of minutes of getting his ass kicked, Kerry finally escapes, like turns it around, and then throws Brock Anderson's head right into Brian Pillman's knees, taking Pillman and Brock out. And then he gets a hot tag to his dad, and then Ricky Morton just kicks ass. It's not the most impressive thing in the show, but it brings out nostalgia. It got a couple of fans off their feet, but majority of like these fat asses in the crowd just like don't do anything. And come on, the wrestlers in the crowd. I've seen Al Snow, I've seen Santino Marella, I've seen Mick Foley, I've seen The Undertaker and stuff. Come on, at least fucking cheer. Imagine, the worst crowd to like wrestle in front of is like actual like former wrestlers. Because they'll be like judging you every step of the way and they won't cheer. Fuck this crowd again. But I really like this match. It's like second best match of the show so far. The end of the match is a bit abrupt. Like, Kerry Morton, after being tagged out, like, inadvertently, like, distracts the referee, Mike Posey. This gets his eyes off of, like, the heel team, even if this wouldn't be a DQ at all. Brock Anderson throws Ricky Morton to, like, Brian Pillman Jr., who, like, kicks him in the back and then hits him with, like, a gourd buster for the win. So, yeah, this finisher should not be a finisher. For me, it's a setup move, but I do like the entire match. and Kerry Morton looks very promising. So yeah, for spots of the match, I'm gonna have to go with just two. So number 2 is this like sort of silly spot where Brock Anderson has Ricky Morton in like a fall away slam position, but then Kerry like drop kicks the back of his dad, and then he like falls on Brock Anderson. Very, very simple, like nothing much spectacular happens here, but this is like number 2. And then for the number 1 spot of the match, it's the hot tag where like Kerry throws Brock to Brian Pillman's knee, and then he gets the hot tag to his dad, who kicks everyone's ass. And yeah, nothing much special happens here, but the drama was pretty good. And just like the old school feel. But if I see this over and over again, it wouldn't be as good. Just because, like, again, nothing spectacular, nothing special happened. They didn't reinvent the wheel. It was just like an old school, like, vintage tag team match. So yeah, the second generation wrestlers win, and then they leave. So yeah, after this is like a 4-way match between 4 luchadors. It's Bandido versus Laredo Kid versus Black Taurus versus Rey Fenix. So no question about it, this was gonna be the best match of the night. Like, this is the only one that got the whole arena to fucking stand up and fucking cheer and make noise. Like, none of those matches earlier, especially the match before, it was like more old school, or like the match with Killer Kross and Davey Boy Smith Jr. did not get as loud a crowd reaction as this one right here. Because shit, they do the most luchador of things. They go show stealer like to the fullest. This match got that David Spade looking motherfucker in the blue shirt to stand up. And he hasn't done anything this entire show. So yeah, what can I say? I can't even like summarize this match because so much happens. So Laredo Kid, Bandido, and Rey Fenix are the high flyers, while Black Taurus is the more power guy, but he also does an outside dive. And I think he's the most impressive in this entire match because, like, he does, like, maybe the coolest shit in the entire match. And I'm gonna get to that later. And there's also this thing where, like, all of them do these slaps, right? Like, Laredo Kid, Bandido, and Black Taurus especially. They do these like Katsuhiko Nakajima like slaps that took out Tetsuya Endo, and they make it sound really loud. And yeah, there's also this one spot where Bandido almost spikes his head on the floor, but then Black Taurus saves his fucking life. Like, you could see it. Fucking Bandido would have fucking paralyzed himself if he fucking landed on his head without Black Taurus. But then Black Taurus catches him with all his strength, and then they do like a Canadian Destroyer spot on the floor. Fucking number 1 spot of the match. And right after this is when I think they did too much. Because we get like back-to-back outside dives, like from the top turnbuckle to the outside, where the people outside are just waiting to get jumped on. Especially this like fall away like Spanish fly to Rey Fenix and Black Taurus. I think it was like Laredo Kid doing it on... No. It was Bandido doing it on Laredo Kid. This one here looked the most hokey, and they didn't need to do this. Like, we just had the best spot of the match happen. Like, we had Black Taurus fucking save Bandido's career. So yeah, after a couple of more exchanges, we get this like spot that could have been a spot of the match, but Fenix counters out of it. It's like a bounce around like German suplex by Bandido, but Fenix resists, and then we head to the finish. So yeah, the finish of the match is like right after Black Taurus fucking German suplexes Rey Fenix like a couple of like a lot, like so far away. He like German suplexes him halfway across the ring, and then he does this like gonzo bomb on Bandido, goes for the pin, but then Fenix like breaks it up with a diving foot stomp, and then like somehow Rey Fenix manages to like hit Black Taurus with his finisher that I forgot the name of, but it's just like a fireman carry Michinoku driver thing that ends the match 1-2-3, and Rey Fenix wins the match. So yeah, let's head to the spots of the match. So there's just too many spots here to like call because like everything here was like incredible in this match. They do go overboard, but it's just the one move. So yeah, for number 3, I'm not even gonna mention the honorable mentions because we're gonna be here all day. So yeah, for number 3, It's like the dive that Bandido does. It's like a moonsault spinning crossbody on Rey Fenix. And yeah, very, very visually appealing, but Black Taurus just like does better spots. So yeah, number 2 is the Avalanche Gorilla Press. So yeah, this was my number 1, but then Black Taurus just saved a man's life. So yeah, number 1 spot is Black Taurus like saving Bandido from like spiking himself on his head to the floor. So like he picks him up in like a pile driver position, tries to go for a power bomb. He tries to power bomb him on like the apron, the hardest part of the ring, if you forgot. And then Bandido turns this into like a Canadian Destroyer spot. But I'm gonna credit this solely on, or like mostly on, Black Taurus. Fucking great wrestler. So yeah, fucking great match. I can see why this is the best match on the show, according to a lot of people, according to Dave Meltzer. And yeah, like, according to my eye test, this is the fucking best match of the night so far. It's just sad that, like, Black Taurus had to take the pin. Like, Laredo Kid was the least impressive in this entire match. He basically did, like, almost nothing. Like, compared to, like, what Fenix, what Bandido, and what Black Taurus did, I almost like forgot that he was in the match in the first place. So yeah, great showing by Rey Fenix, even better showing by fucking Bandido, and fucking star-making performance for an American crowd for Black Taurus. This is like a pay-per-view main event only match. It's that fucking good. There's only like one spot that overdoes it that I think like sinks this match. But other from that, really great showing. Laredo Kid, what you doing? So yeah, next match. So after this isn't a match yet. It's the best video tribute thing in the show. And it's by Jim Ross. Like, this goes on for a while, I think as long as Cody's. And it has more substance as well as more emotion than like anyone who made one of these so far. It's just like JR in his house through a webcam, like recorded. It's just him wishing the show well, calling Ric Flair the best ever, and like emotionally wishing to be in the actual show. And I love how he mentioned the Fight app, nice plug right there. And yeah, that's basically it. It's like the most sincere like video tribute in the entire show, even more than Cody's. So yeah, if I would call something like a segment of the night, this is it right here. I believe this should be played like before the actual main event. Okay, so after this, we have the Impact World Heavyweight Championship match between Josh Alexander versus Jacob Fatu. And this match, you know what, was really good, but that ending fucking ruined it. Like, we were heading to like maybe top 1 match of the night. But then Matt Cardona and Brian Myers had to interfere and like ruin the fucking ending. And it's probably because of like the politics and stuff between MLW and TNA. But come on, man, Jacob Fatu is not a champion. Josh Alexander is. So why not just like have Jacob Fatu lose or something? Have him like faint or something. Just like not have it end in a no fucking contest. Because this match was like so fucking good. Like, Josh Alexander has this like wrestler gimmick. He's actually wearing like the headgear of like amateur wrestlers. And he has a wrestling style that's similar to like Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit, but he's just like a lot bigger. And then as for Jacob Fatu, holy fucking shit, this guy is the man. He's like an Umaga or like a Haku, but he's like more athletic. The dude can do fucking moonsaults, he super kicks, and like there's this like one spot where he like bounces off the top turnbuckle. He lands on like the rope adjacent to it, like on his thighs, and then he does a moonsault. And at that fucking size. Because Jacob Fatu is the fucking man. I mean, Hammerstone is fine, but Jacob Fatu, holy shit. Like, the WWE should not have went for like Killer Kross. They should have went for Jacob fucking Fatu, and then just have him take all of Roman's belts. Because this guy can do like anything. He can wrestle that like powerhouse Samoan style, and he can also do some flippy shit. You know what? I don't understand like what Hammerstone said like about the super kicks and the flippy shit, because fuck, Jacob Fatu is right there. The only difference is he's a lot bigger. So yeah, goddamn, Jacob Fatu is like my new favorite like independent wrestler. And Josh Alexander is like not that far away. So yeah, these guys managed to like wrestle a very main event paced match. Like they start slow but like not too slow. Like something is always happening when they're in the ring. Like they never take their sweet fucking time. So like Josh Alexander is very very good in the ring. He's like very smooth. His moveset is also really cool. Like we get this like lung blower powerbomb. It's like a powerbomb on Josh Alexander's knee, and this looks devastating. Like normally if Jacob Fatu wasn't in the match, I would rank this like number 3, but unfortunately fucking Jacob fucking Fatu is in the match. So all 3 spots like in the actual ranking will be his. So yeah, this basically turns into a show stealer. They really don't have enough time to like tell an actual story match, to like work on any limbs. They just go for the cool spots, and those cool spots are like fucking amazing. So yeah, I'm sorry I can't talk about the match much. It would be more appropriate though if I talk about the spots in the match, because then you'll understand how special Jacob Fatu is. So yeah, before that, these guys like do not botch anything. Especially Jacob Fatu, who like does all of the high flying shit. And also like he spits after every move. And it's kind of weird, but also disgusting as well, spreading COVID all over the place. But yeah, it's his thing, and should like stop doing that as often because it's just disgusting. So yeah, as I said, they wrestled a really good match. Like it became a show stealer. They threw all of their biggest moves in, and then like there's this part when they slow down. Like they're both kneeling, they're having like a strike battle. This is like moving towards like a second half. But then fucking Matt Cardona and Brian Myers, aka Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins, I think that's what it's called, interfere, and then they attack both wrestlers, ruining the fucking match. Jacob Fatu was attacked first, so I guess he won. But yeah, it was recorded as a no contest. And yeah, this fucking ruined this match for me. If this had a proper ending, like guaranteed, this would be like #1 match on the card. And like I would be summarizing every detail. But just the ending, yeah, like it was like the biggest fucking disappointment ever. This was the most pointless thing because, like, from what I understand, like, Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder do not have a feud with Josh Alexander. Like, I would understand if Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, like, came in to attack. And I would understand if it, like, happened in, like, the 20th minute of a match. Like, right here, just when the match is gonna move on to, like, its second phase, some guys who aren't even involved in the story come in and, like, just attack everyone. I heard this was politics from MLW and Impact, and I don't get MLW's side because I think Impact is, like, the bigger company. They draw more fans, and then Jacob Fatu isn't even a champion. I mean, if he was the MLW champion, I would understand, but no, he's like the challenger here. You could like make him look very strong. Maybe like have a count out or something. But like having it be an interference and then like DDP showing up and like hitting the heel with Diamond Cutter, it takes away from the competitors in the match they wrestled, and the guy from the other company. Yeah, for me, this made Jacob Fatu look worse than if he lost. Fuck this shit, man. Let's move on to the spots of the match. Okay, so all of Josh Alexander's cool shit, for example, like the avalanche T-bone suplex, as well as the powerbomb to his knee, are very good spots, but they're just gonna end up as like honorable mentions right now. And as for the top 3 spots of the match, number 3 is Jacob Fatu's Whisper to the Wind. It's his like first high-flying move that like floored me. A person his size doing a Jeff Hardy move and then making it look really good and devastating. Goddamn, man, this guy's special. A big company should sign him. Okay, so after this, number 2 spot is the fucking outside dive that he does. He like does a side jump flip and then like hits Josh Alexander. This guy might be the best fucking Samoan wrestling today. And I don't think it's close. So if ever the WWE signed this guy, I hope he doesn't become like an underling for Roman Reigns and like be the Intercontinental Champion guy, because this guy's like world champion material. So yeah, number 1 spot of the match is like the most impressive looking Jacob Fatu spot. It's like the moonsault while Jacob Fatu is like on the top turnbuckle. He jumps off of this. His thighs hit the top rope, like adjacent to the turnbuckle, and then he does a moonsault. This was the most like cruiserweight spot of this entire match. Jacob Fatu also does a moonsault, like a regular one, but a lot of like bigger dudes have done moonsaults before, like Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, and such. But Fatu managed to do something that like legit only a cruiserweight would do. Like someone like, I don't know, like Kota Ibushi, Rey Fenix. He did like that level of move. And this guy's like 300 pounds. I think that's all my reasons for all of his like top spots. And I don't regret it. Jacob Fatu stole the show and like deserved to at least finish the match. So yeah, really good match that was ruined by the ending. So by all that's right, I can't give this the #1 spot. I can't even give this the #2 spot. It has to be like, at least, yeah, third best match so far. So yeah, unfortunate. Politics got in the way over great wrestling. So Impact and MLW, especially MLW, go fuck yourself. Okay, so after this, we have a backstage segment between like this interviewer guy who's trying to interview Jeff Jarrett, but then he runs into Jerry Jarrett and Jerry the King Lawler. Jeff Jarrett like doesn't talk much. Like this was mostly a King segment, and he was fine. I cringed every time he called Jeff Jarrett like a young man. But we get all of these callbacks to matches that I don't remember, and this didn't really do much for me. Yeah, it builds up to the main event, and even foreshadows some of the events. Yeah, I was spoiled on the main event, and I know what happens, so King was kind of right here. So yeah, pretty okay segment. Not as good as JR talking about Ric Flair, but it's okay. It does the job. The match doesn't have any build-up anyway, so why not have this like little storyline that they have here? So yeah, after this we get a tag team match between the Von Erichs, so that's Ross and Marshall, against the Briscoe brothers, Jay and Mark Briscoe. So after watching the match, after listening to commentary, apparently this is a match between, like, I know the Briscoes are chicken farmers, but the Von Erichs are sheep farmers. So yeah, this is a pretty, like, thematically synchronous match. Actually pretty funny if you think about it. But this is, like, the best team in Ring of Honor history, and also one of the best teams in AEW, against supposedly the best team in MLW history. And shit, I forgot to add, Briscoes, one of the best teams in TNA. And the match ends in like 7 minutes. The Briscoes just like beat these guys in 7 minutes. I mean, they all get their chance to shine, but come on, man. #1 team in MLW against like best team in Ring of Honor, but they're like pretty second fiddle to other teams in other companies. I think they should have had like a longer match, like at least 15 minutes. And I have to say this again. Like, honestly, from the fucking heart, fuck this crowd. This crowd wouldn't know a good match if it hit him. Like, they were so fucking silent, even if, like, these guys pretty much had, like, a really good match. This might be, like, second best of the entire night, even if it ended in, like, 7 minutes. There was no, like, flippy shit here. This was all, like, traditional tag team wrestling. But just, like, add in the Briscoes, like, charisma and their character. And still the crowd doesn't react much. They react the loudest for the finish. For the Froggy Bow by Mark Briscoe. But yeah, for the match itself, the Briscoes like pretty much have control of most of it. The Von Erichs get a few spots in. I think Marshall is the more like impressive out of the two. And I like their tag team finisher. It's like Marshall doing the Kevin Von Erich claw. And then Ross Von Erich does like a backdrop. It was a pretty cool looking finisher. And the crowd pretty much reacted well to it. Probably because they remembered from the good old days. But yeah, the Briscoes were the better team in this match. They did the bigger stuff. And they had more in-ring charisma. So yeah, since the match was just like 7 minutes long, I think they turned this match into a show stealer. There wasn't really any working on limbs. We had like a short time of cutting the ring in half. And then most of what happened is like really show stealery. Like we get that outside dive. We get Mark Briscoe facing off against both Von Erichs. He does his awesome looking chops and then like he does like the redneck kung fu. And then I love how Ian Riccoboni is just explaining shit to everyone. And as for the Von Erichs, they managed to get like a decent amount of offense, but I think they only had like 30% of the match when they were in control. But what they did was enough for me to get interested in this team. But yeah, this match was a missed opportunity, and I think that if the match was longer, this could have been like another match of the night contender. And I don't really get to see the like Von Erichs much, especially since I don't watch MLW. I don't know where to watch it. I think it's on Fight or something, but I'm just not interested in like most of their guys. So yeah, this could have gotten me to watch MLW, but I'm not just gonna like watch MLW because of like Jacob Fatu himself. If this is the best team in that company, it would have been nice to see them like at their full potential. Like them doing everything they have in their arsenal and like actually challenging the Briscoes. But the match ends in 7 minutes and they were pretty much like scrubs. So for the finish, Jay Briscoe throws out Marshall and then sets up Ross in the middle of the ring with like a really hard neck breaker. This might be like one of the best neck breakers I've ever seen, because he uses 2 hands and then when he lands it, it like sounds really hard and painful. So this sets him up for Mark Briscoe's Froggy Bow, and then they win the match. So yeah, for me this match just further reinforces how good the Briscoes are, but doesn't really show how good the Von Erichs are. So again, missed opportunity, but I will try to watch more of the Von Erichs matches. So now let's move on to the spots of the match. So for number 3, it's the Von Erichs finisher. It's the claw and the backdrop combination. That got a near fall because Jay Briscoe like manages to break it up at 2.99. This was the best near fall of the match, but it only deserves number 3. Number 2 spot of the match is Mark Briscoe hulking up and fighting off both Von Erichs. And then he does like the redneck kung fu. Really entertaining spot, really charismatic spot, very good fucking spot. And then for the number 1 spot of the entire match, it's when like Mark Briscoe sets up a chair and then he goes for an outside dive while jumping off of this really unstable chair. So yeah, those are the spots of the match. And the rating that I'll give this one, this is like a pay-per-view undercard TV main event. This was really good, but it could only main event a fucking TV show because of like the time limitations. So yeah, this was like pretty much hampered by its length. If this match just like reached like 15 minutes, this would have been maybe pay-per-view only for me. And then I just remembered that I forgot to give the last match a rating, so I'm gonna give it a rating. It's like a TV only, either main event or undercard, because it ends in a fucking DQ. Oh, you know what? Let me change that. It's like a Vince McMahon era TV main event match, because that's how they fucking end those matches there. So I'm kind of salty because I just saw like the best independent wrestler I've seen like so far, and that's Jacob Fatu. Even after the Briscoes versus the Von Erichs, I'm still thinking about this. Like MLW, even if I don't watch them, really got the short end of the stick right here. Like on top of that, like Jacob Fatu debacle, we have the Von Erichs like getting beaten like scrubs by the Briscoes in just like 7 minutes. So yeah, love the matches, but for MLW, even if I'm not a fan, I'm kind of feeling sorry for them. So yeah. Okay, so after this, we have Sting's tribute video, and I think it was better than JR's, just because of the history between these two guys. They also wrestled in WCW's last match, like ever. And I honestly think Sting should have been Ric Flair's final opponent. Like, I watched Fightful's, like, review, and I think Kate and her co-host had a really good, like, idea. I think they're right that Darby and Sting should have been Andrade and Ric Flair's final opponent. And then just have, like, Ric Flair go over Darby, or, like, Sting, or whatever. So yeah, another missed opportunity, and you guys should watch Fightful. They're really good, and I think most of you already do. So yeah, but the content of Sting's promo here, or like his tribute video, is very like touching. It's a very personal message about him thanking Ric Flair for like guiding him through the business, and that he would be nothing without Ric Flair. And then I love how like hypes up the match as well, and that he's supportive of Rick whatever happens. And he was also the most enthusiastic dude like all throughout the show out of everyone who did like these sort of things. So yeah, this is the best segment so far. Let's move on. So after this, we have like a three-way match for the Impact Women's Championship. It's called the Knockouts Championship. I haven't watched TNA for a long time. I even call it TNA sometimes. Impact. So yeah. This is between Jordynne Grace, Deonna Purazzo, and Rachel Ellering. So Deonna Purazzo really didn't like impress me in her AEW performance, but I'm willing to give her like another chance here. And as for Jordynne Grace, I still remember her in that Battle Royal, I think. But I do know that she is one of the best women's wrestlers, like, wrestling today. And then I think she slimmed down from back in the day, from like 3 years ago before AEW was founded. And like, she got buff, by the way. She lost all that fat and became fucking buff. So my expectations, like, were high for Jordynne Grace in this match. Oh my god, please sign with AEW already. Carry that women's division. Beat the shit out of Jade Cargill, please. And I totally think she's right about Chris Benoit. The man murdered his fucking family. There is no conspiracy, and mental health issues from wrestling do not excuse fucking murder. Even Vince McMahon fucking agrees. So please, stop shitting on Jordynne Grace, because she's right. Your nostalgia is blinding all of you to the fucking reality of what fucking happened. So yeah, let's get back to the match. Oh my god, so this match was set to be really good. Like, you could feel it. These are like Impact's 3 best women. This is the company with like the 2nd best women's division in all of the world. And I say women's division because Stardom and Tokyo Joshi Pro don't count. They don't have women's divisions. So yeah, they're a part of a really strong women's division. But like early on in the match, like seconds into the match, after a spot where they roll each other up, Rachel Ellering hurts her ankle and she's like visibly like on the floor, favoring the fucking ankle. So in my opinion, Jordynne and Deonna Purazzo should have like just had a singles match basically, or like in my opinion they should have like a story where they will actively hunt down Rachel Ellering. Like, it's a fight to pin Ellering or like get her in a submission. Like, for me, this should have been the story when Adam Cole was knocked out, when he was concussed in that Fatal 4-Way match. But I don't understand why they never do this, because it makes sense. So it becomes a singles match for a while, but then, like, to my like shock, Ellering comes back in the match and actually wrestles pretty good. Like, Grace and Ellering shake hands, and then Ellering manages to take control for a while. But then there's this awesome spot where, like, she throws Jordynne Grace, like, to the ropes, and then Grace, like, drop kicks, like, Deonna Purazzo outside. Awesome spot. And then she just, like, wails on Ellering, just, like, hits her with strikes. Good faith destroyed. But I think this is a missed opportunity. Like, this has been, like an ongoing thing with this show. Missed opportunity. For me, whoever the heel was in this match, because I don't watch Impact, whoever the heel was should have went straight at Ellering's left ankle and just like tried to tap her out, because Jordynne Grace just like avoids the ankle. And for me, that's dumb. Come on, your goal is to win the match. So yeah, Deonna Purazzo is like the clear heel here. She does her heel stuff, but then she doesn't go for Ellering's ankle. Again, missed opportunity. Yeah, Rachel Ellering was like, for me, like, was not the best performer of the match. That goes to Jordynne Grace, of course. But she had like balls of steel and wrestled the match normally, even with an injury. So that deserves commendation. I want to fucking say it again. Fuck this crowd. They should have been cheering whenever Ellering did something, because she was like the fucking babyface of the match, after being injured and then like doing all the shit normally. Again, fuck this crowd. They tore shit up, but then the crowd just like, again, does not appreciate good matches. So yeah, even with this like injury, they managed to wrestle normally, and it actually was very smooth. We get some really nice spots. Again, because of the time allotted to the match, it turned into a show stealer, but they had some really nice spots. And then Jordynne Grace here, truly the Impact Knockouts champion, she was the best performer. She had the best like grapples as well as strikes. Cause shit, every time she hits someone, it's like fucking stiff. She makes it sound like it hurts. Deonna Purazzo, not much of a striker, but when it came to like the submission moves, she was the best at them. So we get a lot of like three-way spots that all women were involved, but it was like 50-50 with like the 1v1 spots. So it passes in the multi-man department for me. Because again, I hate the multi-man matches where they basically just have a singles match with like the other person while the other guy is down. I never like those types of matches. But here they managed to involve each woman like pretty equally. So yeah, for the finish of the match, this was a pretty fucking good finish. Because Jordynne Grace hits Deonna Purazzo with like the Grace driver. So this effectively takes her out of the match. But then Rachel Ellering like rolls Jordynne Grace up, which like doesn't make sense. I agree with the Fightful people, but it's like the closest target you have, so why not? But then this costs Ellering the match since like after Jordynne Grace kicks out, she immediately goes for the rear naked choke and then makes Ellering tap out. So yeah, so not only does this make Rachel Ellering look really strong, this just doesn't keep the belt on Jordynne Grace, but it also like kind of plants seeds for a rivalry with Deonna Purazzo, because like what was said by the commentators in this match, Jordynne Grace has never beat these two women in like singles matches. So she almost got Deonna Purazzo here. She almost pinned her 1-2-3. So this could be like a launch pad for like future storylines. So yeah, let's move on to the spots of the match. So number 3 is the finish. I mean, it's not like very visually appealing, but it does a lot for everyone in the match. I would have preferred it to be like a move on Rachel Ellering's leg. But yeah, if it was a move on her leg, this would have been like higher. But yeah, this is number 3. For number 2, it's the Tower of Doom spot where Ellering power bombs Purazzo and Jordynne Grace like while they're in like a superplex position. So like she power bombs them in this position and gains control of the match. And then for the number 1 spot of the match, it's when Deonna Purazzo like has Jordynne Grace in like the Fujiwara armbar, but then Ellering tries to like make the save and then Purazzo just trips her up and then gets it on her. And then as she's doing this, like Jordynne Grace puts her in a sleeper hold and then we have like a multiple level submission. And then this leads to like the Tower of Doom spot. You know what? The more I think about this, the more I think that these two spots, number 1 and number 2, should be interchangeable. So I'm going to change it to like tie. Like 1 and 2 are like a tie because they both lead up to each other and they're both like impressive. So yeah, this match, I don't know, man. If they had like a longer match time, if Rachel Ellering wasn't injured, this would have been like a pay-per-view only match, but this is like a TV main event, pay-per-view undercard match. It belongs right where it is, right here, and it's so fucking good. It's just sad that the crowd is so fucking dumb that they didn't even make noise for this. So yeah, I've just had about enough of the crowd. Thankfully, the next match is the main event. Hopefully they'll make noise for that. Like they have to, right? So yeah, up next is the main event, and before this we get like a video package. It's like to explain the story of like Ric Flair's like leading up to the last match. It's sort of weird because it's like Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett having enough of like Ric Flair, the guy who trained Flair, as well as like some random podcaster who's like a legend, just like hating on Rick and like insulting his life choices. And then Andrade is just here being a good like son-in-law to like protect his father-in-law, prevent him from dying, and maybe get some plus points from Charlotte. So yeah, I'm kind of enjoying the story heading into this. I just wish the match was better, but like lighten up the mood to like bring up the match rating to start the match. We get a shot of like Mick Foley now beside The Undertaker. The Undertaker is in the building to watch Ric Flair's last match. This got a pretty loud pop, and it's nice to see The Undertaker like being a normal dude, like enjoying the match with his family and his like one of his friends. and not having to act like a tough dude. So yeah, we start off with the entrances. Everyone seems to enter fine, except Ric Flair. The man like struggles to like walk to the ring, and this just like foreshadows the match. He wears like the purple gear that he wore like in his toy. I had like a Ric Flair action figure like from WCW that I got in like 2007 or 8 or something. It was in nice condition and was like probably my best looking figure, but it's gone now. And he's wearing like the purple gear from that figure. Yeah, I kind of marked out for this. He's also wearing like the big gold belt that he always is pictured in wearing. And yeah, this whole entrance is very nostalgic, but if you watch Ric Flair here, he's struggling a lot. He does look very happy to be there, but come on. He looks so out of shape. He looks so fucking old. And I was afraid that he might die in the ring. Like, the crowd marks out, and they're kind of enabling him, which is fucking wrong. And after the first few exchanges, we get, like, a "You Still Got It" chant, which is, like, supposed to be respectful. It's supposed to, like, pump Ric Flair up to, like, have him perform better, but yeah, he just doesn't. This isn't believable at all. And to you old heads who think, like, the Young Bucks flipping around isn't believable, come on, man. This is like a 70-year-old dude who's like having trouble walking. This is a lot more unbelievable. But yeah, we get a lot of like downtime. But whenever Flair did something, the crowd was into it. And I think that the structure of the match is pretty bad. I think Andrade should have like wrestled for like maybe about like 85% to 90% of the match. And then just like hot tag Ric Flair, have him do his stuff and then beat the guy. That should have been the match structure. Like, just have Ric Flair go in and out and just finish the match. But no. He chose to stay in the ring for a long time, which I don't think he could do. And yeah, after watching it, he couldn't do it. And so when Andrade was tagged in, thank God, he like held back. It was a more like conservative style wrestling match with Andrade here. And again, citing Fightful, they think it's because he doesn't want to outshine Rick. And I kind of agree, but I'm leaning more towards the guy who like set up the match. I think that's Jay Lethal. Did a pretty bad job. And I know the fans chanted like "You Still Got It" like to Ric Flair. But the real like star here was Jeff Jarrett. Shit, the guy can still wrestle, he can still move around the ring, and I wouldn't be opposed to like another run. But then when Jeff Jarrett and Ric Flair are in the ring, fuck, it turns into like a taunt off. They do a lot of pandering to the crowd, and I understand to like extend the match length and to like take in the moment. But yeah, this should have happened later in the match. But like definitely one of the spots in the match is when Ric Flair does like a suck it. He does the crotch chops and then fucking the crowd explodes. And then this is followed by like Ric Flair's greatest hits. He does the chops. He does like the behind the back like leg kick low blow. It was poorly described. It was like a donkey kick low blow that he does. And then the match goes in a direction that I didn't like. Like, Jeff Jarrett here was maybe the MVP of the match since he like prolonged it. He had the charisma to like go out the ring, head to the stage, pretend to run away. But like all of this was like just useless padding that could have been used better to like showcase Andrade and Jay, or like at least shorten the match in order to like preserve Ric Flair's life. Because even if Rick is just standing still, he's still using up energy. He's like 70 years old. I think this was a mistake by Jeff Jarrett right here. So after Andrade does like his basic shit, as well as like Ric Flair does like the chops, the punches, like some basic shit also from Ric Flair, with some nice selling from Jay Lethal, Andrade then turns into the whipping boy, but he was a good whipping boy. He had some nice exchanges with Jeff Jarrett that further proves that Jeff can still hang with the young guys. But then after Rick is like hot tagged back in, oh shit, we see it. We see him like slowing down considerably. His chops become weaker and then, fuck, it was clear that this guy was done. Like, the man was moving super slow. He fought off Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal with like some soft fucking chops. The man had no energy left. He was gassed. I think the match should have ended like at this point. Or like if Andrade was in the match for like a long time and like used it to like prolong it, this would have been the perfect time for Ric Flair to just close it out. But no. Flair was like in the ring as much as Andrade was. He was also standing on the corner, getting in and out of the ropes, and this eats up energy. And like clearly, Ric Flair had nothing left to give at this point. So when Flair got Jay Lethal into like a figure 4 leg lock, I thought that was gonna be it. I thought this was like the perfect place to end the match since Ric Flair was clearly done. But then the match goes on and then it just gets uncomfortable to watch. We get a spot where like Conrad Thompson's wife, Charlotte's like older sister, I think, like has a confrontation with Karen Jarrett. And I think this was awesome. Karen Jarrett is such a great heel. She threatens to kill Conrad Thompson's wife, Ric Flair's eldest daughter, and this just like got me to mark out. This has to be like number 3 spot in the match. And then like during this time, Ric Flair blades. Because to break out of the figure 4 leg lock, like Jeff Jarrett hits him with something, like a foreign object I didn't really see. And frankly, I don't really care. But Ric Flair blades and then he feints a heart attack. So Jay Lethal, being a good human being, like a decent human being, he fucking stops attacking. But then Ric Flair fakes it and then eye pokes him. And then I love the crowd reactions here, like in the front row. I love that Vicky Guerrero is just like smiling all over the place. Like Ric Flair's eldest daughter is just uncomfortable with everything. Undertaker is not impressed. Michelle McCool is like videoing everything, but Undertaker is like so funny. He's like not impressed. Ric Flair, stop wrestling already. And then Mick Foley's like politely smiling, but you can tell that he's pretty uncomfortable. I know I was. Faking a heart attack might be like the newest spot I've seen. Because like nobody is like 70 or like has a heart problem. Like maybe Triple H can do it, but I don't think he's gonna wrestle ever. And yeah, Ric Flair is wrestling with a heart problem. And Triple H has retired from wrestling. So you can just see the balls on this guy, but not really much with the brains. And then the spot fucking happens. It's like the biggest bump Flair has to take. And it's the fucking suplex. It's just like a normal suplex, but Ric Flair doesn't get up from it. Andrade has to break up the pin at 2, and then Rick just doesn't stand up. But then he manages to like somehow sell for a figure 4 leg lock done by Jeff Jarrett, and I think this should be like a spot in the match, but maybe we'll get an honorable mention. And then after Jay Lethal misses like an elbow drop, and by miss I mean Flair just like barely rolls out of the way. It looks pretty good. Nice timing. Jay sells his elbow, he sells the damage to his body as Ric Flair is like crawling towards Andrade. And then we get like one of the most unintentionally funny spots of the match. It's when Flair like hot tags Andrade in the match. The dude is like on his knees. He can't even raise his arms anymore. But then he like softly tags Andrade in, and then like the way he falls over is like pretty funny. And then like he just stays on the ground. He like rolls all the way to the apron to his corner. So after this, Andrade manages to get some shine. He doesn't like pull out the heavy arsenal of moves, but he does do like some impressive stuff like a Poison Rana. That might be the biggest thing he does. And so after he manages to take out both Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, like he's looking to tag Flair in. Oh my god, Ric Flair was like on the floor bleeding, like on the apron. Like his hand wasn't even on the tag rope. I thought this was like a poor decision to like tag in Ric Flair here. I think Andrade should have just like called an audible, just like hit someone with his finisher and then like throw Flair on them to like get the win. But then fucking Ric Flair just like crawls around the ring. Yeah, this match should have been over a while ago. And the crowd just kept enabling him. Yeah. And then we get like a guitar shot spot. But Rick just won't get up. So Jay Lethal has to prop the man up. I think Rick was supposed to dodge this himself in order for Jay to take like the guitar shot. But seeing that Ric Flair is like completely out of it, Andrade pulls him off and then they do the guitar shot. It's a nice guitar shot, but yeah, it's not the priority at this point. Then thankfully, thank fucking God, we get to the finish. And it's actually pretty fun because Andrade calls for the brass knucks. He manages to put it on Ric Flair's hand. Flair's just out of it. Andrade just like lifts him up like really slowly. And then somehow, fucking somehow, by like a miracle, like Flair's just like shaking as he puts on the brass knucks. But then he manages to like do the spot where he punches Jarrett with the brass knucks, and it looks convincing enough. Oh my God. And with all the life force that he has left, he puts on the figure 4 leg lock and then counts the 3 count on Jeff Jarrett with his shoulders down. Even if Flair also had his shoulders down, but come on, let's not ruin the moment and everything like all of these dudes in the match worked for, including Flair and like his son-in-law. So yeah, great ending. I really like the ending if it actually worked. If it happened like maybe like 10 minutes ago or like 15 minutes ago, it would have looked a lot better. But here, like, it was just like pretty sad. So yeah, Ric Flair gets the win, and then Andrade comes to check on his father-in-law, and then Ric Flair just mouths to him, "I passed out." So yeah, glad that's over. Hopefully that is really Ric Flair's last match. Yeah, legend right there, but come on. Match should have ended 15 minutes ago. That's what I expected, and that's what should have happened. Like, even while the confetti is like raining down on him, the crowd looks like pretty concerned, and then like Rick just looks in pain. So he gingerly makes it out of the ring, and then his family members like congratulate him, but they should be more worried. Yeah, and Andrade, being the good brother-in-law, fucking helps Rick out, brings him to the Undertaker, and then Taker whispers something to him. It's probably to like stop him from wrestling any future matches. He like shakes Mick Foley's hand, embraces him, and then Bret Hart gives him like the most non-committal fist bump ever. So yeah, nice post-match segment here. And then we get the final like interview between Ric Flair and Tony Schiavone. Tony like narrates his history with Rick. It was actually pretty sweet. And then Flair started talking. He started like cutting his last promo. Like, he thanks everybody for being here. He thanks his friends. He thanks the crowd for some reason, who were like garbage for the entire show. And then he recalls an interaction he had with Kid Rock. He said he'll be like partying with him or something like that. But yeah, it does seem that this is Ric Flair's last match. He also adds that he doesn't remember half of the match. And then like he leaves fist bumping everyone in the undercard, which is a nice touch. So yeah, he leaves the arena with the belt accompanied by his son-in-law, and then we cut to credits. So yeah, that was the Ric Flair's last match, event, pay-per-view, whatever you want to call it, brought to us by Jim Crockett Promotions. So yeah, this show right here was a story about missed opportunities, because like that main event could have been shorter. It could have helped the match even more if it was shorter. Like, just have Ric Flair do the ending and then have it end like that. And then like give the other matches earlier in the card more time. Like, maybe just like add 5 minutes to them, because it could have made those matches like so much better. I've cited multiple ones, but I think only one like passes the threshold as like a great match. Top performer of the night has to be like Taurus, Black Taurus. And then if there's like a number 2, it's like Rachel Ellering. And as for the match rankings, number 1 is obviously the Luchador match, the Fatal 4-Way. Number 2 is the women's match. I think this was hampered by the injury to Rachel Ellering. This deserved more time. And like, even with the injury, Rachel Ellering was a boss and then wrestled the match like as it should have. So props to her and props to the Impact Women's Division. bunch of badasses and like miles ahead of AEW's. The number 3 match is the opener. This just like barely edges ahead of like the Briscoes match because it's just longer, it's a more complete match, and it featured like it fully like displayed what both of these teams can do. And then number 4 down is like right there on the screen. Just look at it. This video is like an hour and 10 minutes long, so I'm just gonna stop. So yeah, that is my review of the Ric Flair's last match event by Jim Crockett Promotions. I hope you fucking enjoyed it. I know I like mildly did. So yeah, like, comment, and subscribe for engagement. Share if you don't know me. Hit that bell notification for future videos, and please watch my shit.